Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my obeisances. Always Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Hemang Mathi, whenever you're ready, you can start Mathi.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Today we are reading Canto 3, Chapter 23, text 36 to 46. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudire Nashtaprayesu Abhatresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. Text 36 and 37. The sage could see that Devahuti had washed herself clean and was shining forth as though no longer his former wife. She had regained her own original beauty as the daughter of a prince. Dressed in excellent robes, her charming breast duly girded, she was waited upon by 1,000 Gandharva gods. O destroyer of the enemy, his fondness of her grew, and he placed her on the aerial mansion. Though seemingly attached to his beloved consort, while served by the Gandharva gods, the sage did not lose his glory, which was mastery over himself. In the aerial mansion, Kardama Muni, with his consort, shone as charmingly as the moon in the midst of the star in the sky, which causes rows of lilies to open in ponds at night. In that aerial mansion, he traveled to the pleasures valley of Mount Meru, which was rendered all the more beautiful by cool, gentle, fragrant breeze that stimulated passion. In these valleys, the treasure of the gods Kubera, surrounded by beautiful women and praised by the Siddhas, generally enjoys pleasure. Kardama Muni, also surrounded by the beautiful themselves and his wife, went there and enjoyed for many, many years. Satisfied by his wife, he enjoyed in that aerial mansion not only on Mount Meru, but in different gardens known as Vaisrambaka, Surasena, Nandana, Puspavadraka, and Chaitraratya, and by the Manasa Sarovar lake. He traveled in that way through the various planets as the air passes uncontrolled in every direction. Coursing through the air in that great and splendid aerial mansion, which could fly at his will, he surpassed even the demigods. What is difficult to achieve for determined men who have taken refuge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's lotus feet. His feet are the source of sacred rivers like the Ganges, which put an end to the dangers of the mundane life. After showing his wife the globe of the universe and its different arrangements, full of many wonders, the great yogi Kardama Muni returned to his own hermitage. After coming back to his hermitage, he divided himself into 9 personalities just to give pleasure to Devahuti, the daughter of Manu, who was eager for sex life. In that way, he enjoyed with her for many, many years, which passed just like a moment. In that aerial mansion, Devahuti, in the company of her handsome husband, situated on an excellent bed that increased sexual desire, and could not realize how much time was passing. Text 46. While the couple who eagerly longed for sexual pleasure were thus enjoying themselves by virtue of mystic powers, and 100 autumns passed like a brief span of time. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hemang Mathi. Hare Krishna. Krishna Prabhu, whenever you're ready, you can start. Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji, for reading today's translation, Sloka's translation. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 23, titled Devahuti's Lamentation from Shloka 36 to 46. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurmani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pachyapta Deshitarani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Is my voice is okay? Because I have the cold cough like that.
Yeah, no, it's clear, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So just to give a background, in the last chapter, we heard that Maitreya Muni narrating how Swayambhava Manu is looking for a suitable husband for his daughter Devahuti. And then he also came to know that this sage Kartama Muni, son of Lord Brahma, is also looking for a suitable girl to marry. So knowing that, so along with his wife and daughter, so they came to this Kartama Muni's ashram, and then he glorified Kartama Muni for his great qualities. Then he also narrated his daughter's great quality and the family lineage. Then he mentions that he came to know that Kartama Muni is also looking for a suitable girl to marry. So he requested to accept his daughter Devahuti as his wife in the marriage. Then Kartama Muni gladly accepts that proposal, and then he mentions to have this marriage in a Vedic style. So then we hear how the marriage ceremony happened. Then Maitreya Muni describes how the citizens of Swayambhava Muni received him when he returned from the Kartama Muni ashram back to his kingdom, and then his wonderful character. So, and in this chapter, we so far heard how Mother Devahuti, after marriage, though she came from the royal family, so many facilities and comforts, but here in the ashramam, so she served Kartama Muni very menially and with great respect and attentively. So, and while serving her husband, she did not carry her own body itself. So, because of that, she lost her external attractive beauty. And Kartama Muni, seeing that service that performed by Devahuti, so he became very pleased. And then in that discussion, Mother Devahuti requests a physical union so that a good progeny can be generated. So then we heard how Kartama Muni for that situation, so he created a beautiful and wonderful aerial mansion, so which has all comforts, and there are many servants like that, so with his yogic power. And then he mentions Mother Devahuti to take a bath in the Bindu Sarovara lake, because to regain her beauty. Now she lost her external beauty, so he requests to go and take bath in the Bindu Sarovara. And Mother Devahuti, following her husband's direction, so she enters into the Bindu Sarovara, then she regained her beauty. So today we'll continue from there. And we see here, so the Kartama Muni, after she took bath in the Bindu Sarovara, so he could see that Devahuti so washed herself very clean, and then now she is shining very beautiful, and she doesn't look like her previous wife, the former wife, as she was serving Kartama Muni very menially and lost her beauty. She's not like that, because she now regained her beauty. So she is looking like as a daughter of a prince. And we see here that she is dressed in excellent robes, and her charming dresses are nicely decorated, and she was waited by thousands of Gandharva girls. Seeing this situation, Kartama Muni's attraction for his wife became more and more. So, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so the real beauty of the woman is in the breast. So that's why, and on top of that, because Mother Devahuti is decorated with nice ornaments surrounding on her breast. So this increased the attraction of Kartama Muni towards his wife. So even though he's a great sage. And that's why Prabhupada quotes Sripada Sankaracharya's comment saying that so a person who is trying to progress in the path of bhakti, so one who is doing the sadhana bhakti, so he should not be attracted by the raised breasts of a woman. Because Prabhupada quotes a wonderful point here, they are nothing but an interaction of fat and blood within the body. So it's not very the essence is fat and blood. It's not something extraordinary. So that's why either man or woman, so looking at their external beauty, so one should not be attracted. So who is trying to progress in the path of bhakti? And this reminds me, like, one time one Prabhuji shares a nice example. Like he says that, so one time there was a king going on a procession, and there is a lot of citizens who were in that procession. And this king saw one beautiful girl, and then he became attracted to her. And then he, after the procession, he goes to her house, and then he tells to her that he is attracted to her and he wanted to marry her. But this girl is not interested in marrying this king, because this king doesn't have a good qualities. So, so instead of saying no, because he is a powerful king, he can force her also. So he told that, okay, I will tell my decision in a week. And she also asked, like, why he wants to marry. And then he mentions that because she is looking very beautiful. So she told, okay, come after a week. And within this week, what she does is she uses some medicines so that she can get automatic, the vomitings and then watery stool in a frequent manner in the day, like that. So, and then whatever the vomitings that she did or the stool that she passed away due to this medicine, so she preserves that. And because this has been done for a week, so she lost her external beauty. So, and when the king came and knocked the door after a week, and she opened the door, and then the king asked, like, I am here to marry one beautiful girl who resides in this building. Then she says that it's me only. Then the king didn't believe. He says that, she is very beautiful. And the girl says that, I separated that beauty. Do you want to see that beauty? And king was surprised. Now, how can one can separate the beauty? And then he said that, yes, I want to see that beauty. Then he takes him to the room where she preserved all these vomitings and then the watery stool, all those things. Then seeing that, the king becomes horrible. So then he realizes that the external beauty is nothing but the fat and blood, as Prabhupada mentions. So that's why Prabhupada, of course, even though many people doesn't know this, that we are not this body, so one should not be attached to the body, more focus on the spirit soul, what is good for the spirit soul. And some may know that theoretically, but it's very hard to control the senses and apply in our day-to-day life. That's why Prabhupada, I hear in many his lectures that he stresses on this basic and powerful point to remind us that we are not this body. We are the powerful spirit soul, not to be attracted by this external beauty of the body. Of course, it is required a person like me to be reminded again and again, so that we can be focused what is the real goal of the human life. So here we see that she was just very nicely, and because of that, Kartama Muni's attraction to her increased. And then in the text 38, we see that Kartama Muni, even though it looks like that he's attached to his wife externally, but he did not lose his glory, so which was the mastery over his self. So in Kardamamuni is looking like a charming as moon in the midst of the stars in the sky. So, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the analogy tells that Kardamamuni looked like the full moon, and the girls surrounded by him or his wife Devahuti, they seem like the stars. And Prabhupada says that, when there is a full moon night and the stars surrounding that moon, they together form a very beautiful constellation. So here also similarly, the scenario is looking very beautiful, like Kardamamuni being the moon, and all the other Gandharva girls and his wife who are looking very beautiful. So it appears to be very, very wonderful. And then in the Sloka 39, we see that Kardamamuni, so he, in that aerial mansion, so he traveled different valleys surrounded by the Mount Meru. So, and these valleys, they are very beautiful and they generate the cool air, and it is gentle, and there is a fragrant breezes. So this and all will stimulate the passion, so that one can have the physical union. Of course, here Kardamamuni is doing this as a service on the instruction of Lord Brahma to produce good progeny. So he is a wonderful and great devotee. We hear that Prabhupada mentions that Kardamamuni is a liberated soul. So he is above the material, 3 modes. And we see that in these valleys, the treasure of the gods, Kuvera, so they generally enjoy pleasures in these valleys. So Kardamamuni also surrounded by beautiful damsels and his wife. So he went there and enjoyed for many, many years. And Prabhupada mentioned that it's not very surprising a person like Kardamamuni, who is a powerful yogi, to travel in different places in this universe. So, and we saw in the earlier slokas, right, how he created a big, wonderful aerial mansion which has all comforts and so many servants like that. So when one achieves perfection in the Ashtanga Yoga process, Krishna also mentions in the Bhagavatam, like, so one can get 8 types of mystic powers, siddhis. So they can get all of 8 or some of them like that. So one can become smaller than the small, or lighter than the smallest particle, soft one, or they can become the heavier than heaviest, or they can get anything and everything from anywhere and everywhere. So like that, different types of siddhis one can get. But the perfection of the Ashtanga Yoga or any yoga is to develop love for the Supreme Lord, like how we see that Kardamamuni achieved it. So not to gain some material powers. And I remember, like, in one lecture, Prabhupada mentions that if you're a yogi, by going through so many years of Ashtanga Yoga process, performing Ashtanga Yoga, and he achieves one kind of siddhi, like where he can walk on the water, he becomes lighter than the light one. So then what is the use of it? Because walking on the water seems to be wonder, but one can simply give a couple of rupees to a boatman and then he can cross the river. So instead of spending so much time and hard austerity for getting just that small ability to walk on the water. So instead, so this any yoga or the perfection of yoga is to develop the love for Supreme Lord, not for any material powers. And and here we see that Kardamamuni had this ability to travel all over the universe. So, and he went into these valleys where the Kuvera, surrounded by beautiful women, so generally enjoys pleasures. Kardamamuni could be able to go there. Prabhupada mentions that all these demigods, they take pleasure in these valleys of Mount Meru. So it is situated, these valleys are situated in between sun and earth, like how we see in this world also. Like sometimes the rich people, they go on tour to different places and they stay in luxurious hotels with many facilities for their own enjoyment. So similarly, these demigods has a higher comforts and higher facilities. So they travel into these nice valleys, which has a cool and gentle, fragrant breezes, and they enjoy in these valleys, surrounded by beautiful girls. Prabhupada mentions that so this environment, so being in the presence of young, beautiful girls, or the nice, cool, gentle, fragrant breezes environment, it will stimulate the passion, so that Kardama Muni can have a physical union with his wife to produce good progeny, not for his sense gratification. So this is approved by the authorities. So Prabhupada mentions that this is a valid one. To produce good progeny, one can have the physical union. Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi, like I am the sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So if one is indulging in the sexual activity to produce good progeny, then that is approved. So in the sloka 40, we see that Kardama Muni satisfied by his wife. He enjoyed in that aerial mansion in different gardens known as Vaishrambaka, Surasana, Nandana, Pushpabhadraka, Chaitratya, like Manasarovara Lake, like that. These are all different, Prabhupada mentioned that these are different gardens in the higher planetary systems. So where one will have a good opportunity for associating with beautiful girls, angelic, beautiful women. And also they have a profuse supply of Somarasa wine. Of course, it's not some liquor that we get here. It's not considered as intoxication, but there is a facility there. So this and all will produce or increase our passion, so that one can be in the physical union. And in the 41 sloka, we see that Kardama Muni, he traveled through various planets. So it's not just in one planet. So various planets. We can see the power of Kardama Muni that. So as the air passes uncontrolled in every direction, so similarly Kardama Muni, he could fly at his will. Because of that, he surpassed even the demigods. And Prabhupada mentions in the Part4 that even that, so anyone in this material world, they are called conditions also, because we are conditions. They are conditions. So if I want to travel from this planet to a different planet, I cannot, because I am conditioned. So similarly, even this is applies to the demigods. So if the demigods can only travel to certain planets, they can only travel to those planets. So if they need to travel to a different planets where they are not eligible, then they cannot travel, because everybody in this universe is conditioned. So that's why we're called conditions also. But Kardama Muni, with his yogic power, he could able to travel all over the planets, all over the universe, different planets. So that's why here it is mentioned that here he surpassed even the demigods. So even some powerful personalities, like we hear in the Ramayana, this I heard that like that, like Ravanasura, he wanted to build a staircase from Lanka to reach to the heavenly planet, and then deport all his citizens or whoever is interested to reach heavenly planets. So he tried that, but he was not successful. So because that's the nature's law, the laws of nature. Like, one who is supposed to be in this planet, they will be like that only, in this planet only. Of course, we see that even in this world also, right? Suppose when we wanted to come from India to America, so we have to go through the process, and we have to be eligible, and we have to get permission from the US government, so that one can enter into the US, this country. So similarly, the laws of nature is like that. So when one wants to enter into a different planet, he has to be qualified. He has to acquire that kind of power, so that they can go into that planet. So this applies to the demigods also. So that's why here it's mentioned that Kardama Muni surpassed even demigods. Because we see in the next sloka, so one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, so he can achieve anything. So it's not difficult for him, because his feet are the source of sacred rivers like Ganges. which put an end to the dangers of mundane life. So here Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Kardama Muni not only yogi, but he is a great devotee. So he's a liberated soul. That's why he's far better than the demigods, who are also conditioned. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that out of all the yogis, so one who is taken devotion service on the path of bhakti, so they are first class yogi. So they are the perfect personalities. And for them, there is nothing impossible. So one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, for them, there is nothing is impossible. And they don't have any fear because they have taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So that's why we hear from that song, am I right? Abhaya Charana Aravinda. So Krishna's lotus feet, it's called Abhaya Charana Aravinda. So when one takes shelter of the Krishna's lotus feet, then there is no fear. And one can escape from all dangers. Padam natesham. Like in this material world, so one who has not taken shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, so they will go through the dangers at every step. But natesham. So when one takes the shelter of the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, then there is no dangers. Because they will, when one is perfected in the spiritual path, they will be elevated to the spiritual world where there are no dangers at all. And they become peaceful. Shanti mruchiti, like that. So Prabhupada mentioned that although Kardama Muni, externally it looks like he is enjoying with his wife and many other women, but he is above the material qualities. So he is not conditioned. And in the sloka 43, we hear that after showing his wife the globe of the universe in different arrangements, which has many wonders, so then he returned to his own hermitage. So we see here that why Kardama Muni is a great personality. So though he traveled all over the universe and saw so many wonders and beautiful places and great opulence in different planets, but he is not attracted. So he returned to his own hermitage. Like we see, many people. So when one comes from India to US, seeing the comforts and facilities here, so many of them settle down here only. So they don't have, even though they have initially plans to go back to India, but after coming here and attracted by this opulence or comforts, facilities, they stay here. Of course, when one stays here, which will help them to increase in the path of bhakti, then that is nice. But if one is here just to satisfy their senses and indulge in sense gratification, that is not very appropriate. So here Kardama Muni, though he traveled different planets, which has many wonders, still he returned back to his own hermitage. And Prabhupada also mentions that this universe has many planets, and each one has its own wonders. So it's not that whatever we see in this Earth planet will be same like in other planets. So each planet has its own climate. It has its own different kinds of facilities, comforts, and wonderful things like that. And completely occupied with everything that is needed for those inhabitants. So including the beauty of the seasons. And Prabhupada points the Brahma Samhita sloka saying that Vibhuti Bhinnam. So this whole universe has a different or variegated opulences. So not just doesn't look same in each and every planet like that. So in the sloka 44, we see that here. So after coming back to his hermitage, now he divided himself into 9 personalities to give pleasure to Devahuti. So who was eager for sex life. And then he enjoyed with her for many years. And they passed like just a moment. So and Prabhupada mentions in the purport that after traveling these beautiful places and heavenly kingdoms, generally, because it stimulated the passion, so Mother Devahuti's stimulation for passion increased, or the passion is increased, and she wanted to have the physical union. So in order to satisfy, Kardama Muni expanded himself 9 forms. And Prabhupada explains why he has to expand 9 forms. Because the sexual appetite for a woman is 9 times greater than a man. So that's why he expanded himself in 9 forms. Otherwise, there is no other reason to expand himself into 9. And we see that this is another power of an yogi. So he can expand up to 9 forms. So a yogi can expand himself up to 9 forms, not more than that. But of course, we see Supreme Lord, he can expand himself into unlimited forms. And we hear in Bhagavatam, right? Krishna expanded himself into 16,108 forms so that he can personally stay with each and every queen that he got married. So he's, of course, Krishna can expand unlimited, while only 16,108, he can expand it in millions also. And in the text 45, we see that Devahuti, in the company of her handsome husband, it increased her sexual desires, and he did not realize how much time is passing. And Prabhupada mentions that, this is the thing in the material world, like when one indulges in sex, which gives great pleasure, they don't remember how much time it passed away. So because of that small pleasure that one gets it. And then, of course, we hear that so if this lust is not used for the service of Krishna, here, of course, Kartama Muni is using as a service of Krishna on the instruction of Lord Brahma to create good progeny. But if it is not used in the service of devotion, in the service of Krishna, so then it will create a problem for us. Like, this lust is the one of the gateway to hellish planets. Vividam Narakasya. So it will take us to the hellish planet. So, and this is the root cause. So there are 3 gateways, lust, anger, greed. But lust is the root cause. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Kama Yesha, is lust alone. So due to the mode of passion, so this comes, and if it is not satisfied, then it becomes into anger. What happens if one gets anger? Then he or she loses the intelligence to take a right decision. So if one loses the intelligence to take the right decision, then one would you will do a big mistake. So even for a materialistic person, if he does mistakes that causes a great pain, so then they have to suffer throughout their life. So one has to be very careful. So similarly, a sadhaka who is not very strong in controlling the sense objects, especially the opposite sexual gender attraction. So one has to be away from these objects. So which would or stay in the environment where it is conducive to progress in the path of bhakti, like in the association of the devotees, like that. So avoid the environment where it is not conducive for the devotional path. And we see that here in the text 46, Kardama Muni being engaged in the sexual pleasure. So 100 autumns pass like just a brief of span. So here also we see that Kardama Muni and Devahuti spent 100 years, and they felt like it's a brief span of time. So lust, we see from this that lust is very strong to overcome, especially the opposite gender attraction. So I'm speaking to myself. If one doesn't practice their bhakti sincerely and seriously, then this will not go away. This lust, these anarthas will not go away. So one may think that if one becomes old, our body is not very active, so these anarthas will go away. Not like that. So because the thoughts are still going to be there, even though the body is not suitable for the lusty activities, but the thoughts will still stay, and due to that, one will not be able to progress in the path of bhakti. So that's why Krishna stresses in Bhagavad Gita that one has to increase their spiritual strength. So by following the sadhana bhakti, like chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, as prescribed by the Acharyas, like Srila Prabhupada mentions, chant 16 rounds and follow 4 regulative principles and be in the association of the devotees. So that way we increase our spiritual strength and conquer these anarthas, especially the lust. So that's how we can be able to control our senses. So this is the last sloka for this today's session. So I'll pause it here. In the next session, we will see how Kardama Muni and Devavati got 9 daughters. And then Kardama Muni, as he mentioned earlier, so as soon as she gets kids, then he will leave home. So now she got kids, so he prepared to leave home. And we see how Devavati lamented because she did not take the Kardama Muni's association to uplift her spiritual progress or to gain the spiritual knowledge and practice in the path of bhakti. So I'll pause it here for today. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.